What if everything you thought you knew about medieval philosophy was wrong? For centuries, history books have framed the Middle Ages as a world ruled entirely by men, warriors, kings, theologians, and scholars. A world where women existed only in the margins, silent and obedient, overshadowed by the power of the church and the authority of tradition. But that story is incomplete. And today, we're going to challenge it, because hidden within monastic walls, royal courts, and dusty libraries are the voices of women who refused to accept the place society assigned to them. Women who thought, who argued, who wrote, and who reshaped the medieval imagination in ways that were never meant to survive the centuries. Two of these voices rise above the rest. Two women separated by time, geography, and circumstance, yet forever bound by the force of their ideas. Hildegard of Bingen, the mystic, the visionary, the abbess whose theological revelations reached emperors, bishops, and popes, and Christine de Pizan, the writer, the critic, the woman who dared to confront, line by line, the misogyny that shaped medieval culture. They never met in life, but today, their minds will collide. The world of Hildegard of Bingen was one of darkness pierced by sudden, blinding light. Born in 1098, frail and sickly, she claimed to have visions from childhood, visions of luminous beings, celestial voices, and a divine presence that wrapped reality in symbols only she could interpret. For most of her youth, these visions were a secret, but when they finally erupted into the open, they changed everything. In a world where women were forbidden from teaching theology, Hildegard stood before the church and declared, boldly and without apology, that her words did not come from her, but from God. She described a universe pulsing with energy, the viriditas, the greening force of creation, the harmony of body and soul, the balance between cosmic justice and human action. She wrote books, composed music, corresponded with the most powerful leaders of Europe, and built a reputation so commanding that even the Pope approved her visions. To her followers, she was a prophet. To her critics, a dangerous anomaly. To modern historians, she remains one of the most brilliant theological minds of the medieval world. More than 2 centuries later, Christine de Pizan opened her eyes to a very different reality, one shaped by war, instability, and the collapse of the royal patronage her family depended on. Widowed young, responsible for 3 children and an aging mother, Christine faced a destiny that medieval society had predetermined for her: poverty, silence, and invisibility. But Christine chose another path. She picked up a quill, and she wrote, first to survive, then to be heard, and finally to fight. Her most famous work, the Book of the City of Ladies, does something no medieval writer had ever attempted. It builds an entire allegorical city to celebrate the intelligence, virtue, and dignity of women, at a time when most male authors insisted they were morally and intellectually inferior. Christine confronted misogynistic texts head-on, tearing apart their logic, exposing their biases, and revealing their crude distortions of women's lives. She even challenged the great Jean de Meun, whose Roman de la Rose had defined medieval views on love, sexuality, and femininity. In a bold literary debate, Christine accused him of degrading women, mocking virtue, and poisoning society's understanding of womanhood. Her voice was sharp, rational, methodical, a blade cutting through centuries of prejudice. If Hildegard illuminated the world with visions, Christine illuminated it with reason. Now imagine the two standing face to face, not in the flesh, but in the realm of ideas. Hildegard, guided by visions of divine harmony, believed that order came from the heavens. Christine, shaped by study and lived experience, believed truth emerged from human thought and moral clarity. If Hildegard spoke, she might say,
"The universe is a song composed by God. All creation exists in balance, and woman is part of that sacred harmony."
If Christine responded, her voice would be firm.
Harmony cannot exist where women are silenced. If men distort truth through prejudices, then women must write their own stories.
Hildegard might argue that divinely inspired hierarchy, ada purpos, that obedience and structure preserved peace. Christine would counter.
Hierarchy means nothing when it is used to justify injustice. Women are not born inferior. They are made inferior by a society that fears their potential.
One defends the cosmic order. The other dismantles the social order. One sees the world illuminated from above, the other reconstructs it from below. Their differences are profound, yet not absolute. Both believed in female strength, both challenged male authority, both forged intellectual paths where none existed, and both left behind works that still speak across the centuries. Why, then, are they rarely taught together? Why are their voices still treated as exceptions rather than part of the fabric of medieval thought? Because history, for centuries, preferred a different narrative. A simpler one. A quieter one. Hildegard's mysticism was tolerated, barely. Christine's criticism was inconvenient, dangerously so. But today, their ideas return with force. In Hildegard we find the courage to speak truths grounded in spiritual conviction. In Christine, we find the courage to demand justice grounded in reason. Together, they reveal something extraordinary. The Middle Ages were not silent for women, they were silenced after. So what happens when their philosophies collide? You get a world where mysticism meets logic, vision meets critique, spiritual authority meets literary rebellion. You get a world where two women separated by 250 years carry the same torch through different storms. Hildegard carried it through the monastic corridors, lighting a path for spiritual insight. Christine carried it through the battlefield of ideas, lighting a path for intellectual equality. And when their lights overlap, the Middle Ages look very different, not dark, not silent, but alive and fiercely imaginative. Are you ready to rewrite history? Forget the narratives that erase women from the intellectual tapestry of the Middle Ages. Forget the myths that say female philosophers did not exist. Forget the comfortable silence that buried their brilliance for centuries. Join us on this journey. Witness the intellectual duel between mysticism and reason, between Hildegard of Bingen and Christine de Pizan, between the divine voice and the human voice rising against injustice. Two women, two visions, one forbidden clash that reshaped medieval thought and still challenges us today.